Welcome and welcome back to the Daily Report. This is Power and Politics. For the past few days, of course, the country has been aflush with conversations on the fertilizer, the subsidized fertilizer to be very specific. Farmers who have been buying it have been very doubtful of where exactly this fertilizer is coming from, with, of course, allegations of this particular fertilizer being fake or, being contaminated, give or take. Of course, in studio, we already have the Principal Secretary of the State Department of Agriculture, Dr. Kiprono Rono, who will be giving us clarity on that. Dr. Kiprono, welcome to TV47.
Thank you.
This is the fastest growing channel in the country. We really are happy to have you here. Of course, farmers have a lot of questions on this aspect. However, before we even delve into that, you have had your hand, in a couple of things within this country, including used to be the CEO of the ICT Authority before you went into the Ministry of Water. How exactly has your tenure been within the government?
Okay, thank you, Hibak. And thank you, Kenyans. I think this is a serious topic today.
Yes.
And very interesting, given that we are discussing about the most important topic in this country, to do with farming.
Yes.
And also to do with food security. You talk about how I have traversed government.
Yes.
I've been in government for a long time. I think all my time I've been in government terms of employment. Of course, I started with KPTC long time ago. Then I joined Telecom Kenya. And then I went to AFC. I was in AFC one time. Mm-hmm. And then I went to aviation. I was in aviation industry for quite some time. And then I now came to roads. I was in roads, infrastructure for also some time. Mm-hmm. And then I went to ICT. That is my field, where I also grew until I was the acting CEO of ICT Authority. Before I went to be the PS in the Ministry of Water, and then now PS in the Ministry of Agriculture.
Right. Daktari, infrastructure, ICT, water, agriculture. Your reputation clearly precedes you.
Yes, your
reputation clearly precedes you. And now you are within a state department that is close to the hearts of very many Kenyans. We do produce around 44 million bags of maize. And usually in the world of agriculture, we use that to gauge the food sufficiency within the country. We do say that each Kenyan does, consume about a 90 kilogram bag a year. And we have about 50 million Kenyans. There's a deficit of 6 million. The government has been very keen to fill that deficit. What is the progress so far?
All right, maybe let me go back a little bit in terms of the engagement of this government on matters agriculture.
Right.
If you go to the agenda for this country, the better agenda, we talk about first is the food security, come first in that agenda. Mm-hmm. And it is not by surprise, because it also aligned to the international planning in terms of SDG, whereby 1 and 2 talk about poverty and hunger. Mm-hmm. So this government also hooked to that best practice in terms of sorting out any country's problem. We start with food, because it is believed that if you don't feed your population, then it is very hard to govern. And I think the plan this government has put, especially this administration, on matters to do with food security, is one of those big agenda, because when you talk about agriculture, it is actually the nerves for our economy.
Yes.
And going back to that plan, in terms of critical success factors and the path to make sure that it is achieved, the government look at each and every component in terms of agriculture and especially on food security, and then identify what must be done.
All right.
So where we are now, you hear the big topic on fertilizers, and the big topic on seeds, because those are the critical startup to move ahead. But before that, it went back to say, if you have fertilizer and seed, what must you have right? The other thing is to have the soil right.
Of course.
And by the time we are moving to say which type of fertilizers must we put in our soil, there was a serious analysis, a very thorough analysis to understand our soil health. And within that space, it was discovered that our soil was not healthy, especially on the regions where they've been really producing a lot to feed the country. And that came which type of fertilizer. And now the topic is a science topic. When you're talking about fertilizer and seeds, it is a science topic. And you know very well, in a science topic, you explain very well when you have done a lab report. Then you are able to explain.
Right, Daktari, of course, our backbone is agriculture, and of course when you use or when you are producing the same crop over and over again, now that you've said, of course, it's a science topic, you do deplete the nutrients within the soil, and it is required that you replenish or you revitalize this using fertilizer, and that is where the affordable fertilizer does come in. The Kenya Kwanza government has been very keen on bringing, this particular commodity and this farm input to as many farmers as possible. When you look at the, affordable, I can't really say cheap. Cheap is a very relative term. When you look at the affordable fertilizer and, of course, the process that was used to categorize this, the government was using the best fertilizer for the best soil, right? And this is how a lot of fertilizers or a lot of farmers got this fertilizer. What exactly was informing this particular process? Where did you get the data? How exactly have you been giving this fertilizer to farmers?
So, as I mentioned, about analysis which was done in our soil, because we have agencies who does that analysis. We have the research agency, which is CALRO, who went deep and sit with experts to analyze our soil health. We are calling it soil health, to understand the structure of our soil and the condition of our soil in terms of producing food crops. And when that analysis was done, it was realized that our soil is a little bit acidic in some areas, especially the areas we are calling it food basket. When you talk about acidity, you are talking about soil health which pH level is less than below 5.
Right.
So we are talking about that level. It should be around 7. And when the pH level is around 7, it allows the nutrients to flow very well and feed a particular crop in a good way, and you get maximum production. That is a topic. Now, why are we on now fertilizers and which fertilizer? And the big topic on fertilizers where everybody has become an expert. This topic was started by this administration in trying to address issues, but has gone to everybody's discussion. People who don't even understand what fertilizer is, what fake seeds are. But it is good we like it as government because it shows that we are engaging farmers. Let me tell you this, which is important, why you see the stories and the type of fertilizers we have. First of all, for planting fertilizers, there is a particular nutrient you require, and that nutrient is what is called the phosphorus. That is why you hear NPK for planting. N means you need nutrients, and you need phosphorus, and you need potassium. Part of important is the phosphorus, because it is a type of nutrients which really build the roots of a plant, and that one is so critical. If you heard about triple superphosphate and then single superphosphate, it was just phosphorus. Now, when the government discovered that our soil health has been messed up for some time, it came up with a method on how to get the best fertilizers for our soil. It was not very easy to get one-off fertilizer. We can really sort out our soil. And we came up with what is called blended fertilizers, whereby we have to blend a number of components to get an appropriate fit-for-purpose a fertilizer for our soil. Those components, when they are blended, they are in different colors. And sometimes in different shapes, especially if it is a locally made fertilizer, you will get a little bit of granulars which are big. But fertilizers which are chemically compounded, which is some of them are imported, you will see their texture and their granulars different. So you hear all those stories. It's because of which type. But what is important is it fit for purpose in terms of nutrients?
Now, of course, different components within the fertilizer would look different to farmers, is what you're saying, Bwana PS. I'm just trying to get clarity on this particular matter. And that is why the subsidized fertilizer looked a certain way, because there was a lot of science behind it. And the government, through CALRO, went through a lot of work trying to see what Kenyan soils need. And then afterwards, these fertilizers were brought upon. When the process within which, companies were being vetted in order to make this fertilizer for Kenyans was was the process like? Would you say that it was, it had a lot of integrity, and ethically speaking, that the companies chosen were the best for this job?
Right. Yes. So when the right fertilizer was identified in terms of components, ingredients, and nutrients, the government went ahead to source for the fertilizers competitively from qualified suppliers.
Right.
What does it mean? When we are looking for this in an open tender, we put a specification to say it must be a supplier which is licensed to produce this fertilizer. The supplier will give you what is called a certificate of analysis. A certificate of analysis will give you the different components of a particular fertilizers they are producing. And then after that, after the two has been done, there is what is called certificate of the certificate of conformity to make sure that what the supplier has said they will produce. Now, after it went through a very thorough competitive process to identify the suppliers, we went ahead and said, no, wait a minute. Before the suppliers are also given tenders, contracts now to supply, we went ahead with our internal labs. We have a KFIS lab to really request these suppliers to submit their sample fertilizers which they have said they will be supplying Kenyans, so that they are subjected to the lab test. So those fertilizers, sample fertilizers for each sort of winning bidder were taken to the lab. When they were taken to the lab, some did not qualify again, so we throw them out. Those who are not qualified are the one we engage, and that is the one you see there in the system. Now, what happened? After engagement, we say we cannot allow our farmers this time to really be messed up at any step of delivery. So what we did, we also created another team, a continuous monitoring team, to be going and checking these fertilizers at the farm level. You must have seen me and my CS on the ground to make sure that what was said to be delivered is being delivered. So at some stages, even when we see that is a fertilizer which look a little bit you cannot use your physical look, your eyes, to really judge. That is what I'm seeing people doing it. People are using their eyes to judge. It is a science thing. And then they say, this one look black, this one look bigger. No. That is not the way. It is something you have to test in a lab to say it is not meeting the quality. So in the event we see that there could be something, we test and we found that these fertilizers we have, first of all, are the best. The best quality ever seen. And we have tested in the counties we have used. Now, we started in Narok, we went to Bomet, we went to Nyamira, we went to Kisii, and those farmers will tell you their crops, even though they are still at young stages, they are getting the best.
All right, Daktari. You are saying that, of course, all the required steps had been taken to ensure that Kenyans get the best fertilizer that they possibly can get. And of course, the very last of this process usually is ensuring that the standard of compliance is gotten through the Kenya Bureau of Standards. Just last week, the CEO of that particular government agency was speaking in Parliament. Let's play the second clip.
We have the samples already with us, and we have seen the failure. Because of the failures that we realized after we did the tests, we went ahead and we withdrew the product. We suspended the permit, and we were able to withdraw the product to seize all the products that are on sale under the NCPB warehouses.
Buena PS, that is, of course, the CEO of the Kenya Bureau of Standards, Estangare, who is saying that, a mistake was made. We did get to see that one of the companies was not working, towards the quality of standard that we needed. And you have assured us that all the steps had been followed through. What exactly are your, sentiments on this?
First of all, when you listen to the CEO comment, the KEBS does their work, and their work is continuous surveillance. And I like what they did. They also went around to check whether there is a fertilizer which is not meeting the standard. But why so? First of all, the level of engagement of the government on this subsidy fertilizer is so high, such that each and every agency is on their toes to make sure that nothing is left unturned. Now, what the CEO maybe did not say, but she said later, is that the fertilizer she's referring to is not among the fertilizers under the subsidy program.
Right.
They are not the fertilizers now under this program, because those are the fertilizers supplied long time ago. It is through this very thorough approach this government is doing that after we finished the one for subsidy and made sure that all is okay, we went back to look at other fertilizers, to make sure that any other fertilizer which could have been supplied long time ago and it is in the system and somebody was licensed must be tested. And I think what the CEO did and the KEPS did is to make sure that if that fertilizer is found, it is taken back to the lab to really ascertain, stop first of all, to ascertain that it is meeting the required standards so that if anything is wrong, then the supplier will be also answerable. Right. So, but totally that fertilizer is not within the subsidy program, because I think we are too tight here and with a lot of checks and balances, but now beyond the subsidy program, we are now scrutinizing other fertilizers or other products. If you even follow that one, it is not even called a fertilizer. It is called a soil booster. You know, there are also fertilizers and there are also soil boosters. And soil boosters, sometimes their shapes and colors are different. They are a little bit bigger, and also, you know, they are meant to provide lime to the soil, which is acidic.
Right. So Bwana PS, you maintain that the process of not only acquiring the subsidized fertilizer, but also, you know, supplying the fertilizer that makes it to the farmer is the best that there is?
Yes, in fact, what we are worried as government now is whether farmers have enough stores to store the produce, because it will be a BAMBA harvest. Right. Because looking at the fertilizers we have supplied, we are looking at, in terms of maize, we are looking at a target of 100 million bags. You know, last time we had close to 67 million bags last year. But this year we are looking at 100 million bags. And when you look at the farmers, the way they really appreciate and come out to support government, and also they have realized there is profit in farming, you will be surprised. We'll hit 100 million bags this time. We should be worried about the storage, not whether the fertilizer is what, because that one is not there. Because our fertilizers, every other time we keep on checking. But the story is, which is also hitting us, is that everybody has become an expert. They just go and look at a fertilizer before you taste, you say it is fake, but you cannot look at physically and make your judgment in a science topic and then say this fertilizer look big or black or red. No. So I want to assure farmers, and I've always assured farmers, that the fertilizers we have given to farmers are the best fertilizer in terms of quality and in terms of the regions, what we call ecological zones, and purpose for a particular crop. Each crop has got also specific fertilizers based on the crop type, and also on their level of growth. If it is CAN, there's time to do top dressing. So that is well done. We have done that one very thoroughly. And I keep on assuring farmers. But you know, there are so many stories until when you tell farmers this is a story, this is the true story. There are many other engagement outside real issues.
And of course, that's why we're here, to clarify whatever matter does emerge and to, you know, put right and truth in front of the Kenyans, as we do here on Power and Politics. I'm going to take you to your home county, right? Kijana wa, you know, Kericho County, Daktari. And of course, within this county, a lot of farmers have been lamenting just today on, you know, the type of fertilizer that they got. And there's a lot of pointing at, you know, the NCPB, the National Cereals and Produce Board, who of course are, you know, the people who are storing and distributing the fertilizer, you know, to Kenyans. Let's take a look at what the farmers have to say from Kericho County.
To the ministry, aswa PS Rono ambaye alikuwa hapa na ministry ya agriculture Kericho County, kwamba wakuje hapa with immediate effect, wakague hizo mbolea, wajue mbolea gani wakulima watatumia. Wasituletee mbolea ambaye tutagaramika kulipa na kisha baadaye tukuje tuumie kama wakulima. Tunarudisha mchanga kwa mchanga.
Yote iko na muhuri ya KEPS. And then Sote zinatoka kwa Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Development. It is a GOK subsidy program. So yote inatoka kwa serikali.
Tumekuja kuchukua fertilizers na fertilizers ni mbaya. Tumechanganywa na mchanga. Na sisi tunachukua tunaweka kwa mahindi. So President, please help us.
Those are farmers from Kericho County, your home county. There are, allegations being made there. They have taken 2 types of fertilizers, both from which they got from the National Cereals and Produce Board. They are looking at it side by side. Of course, they are saying that it has, the KEBS authorization. It also has, the government's, initials. The Ministry of Agriculture is written within the bags. And of course, this is where the NCPB comes in. The Corporate Communication Officer, Titus Myers, saying that the suspected fertilizer has been currently set aside and no more distribution will be conducted. Is there a possibility that there is a mixture of fertilizer that did not go through the thorough steps that you said? Is there a possibility that they are in circulation?
All right, first of all, Hibak, I want to appreciate my farmers of Kericho, and I thank them because they are also very curious.
All right.
And I remember last week I was with them. I went to those cereals to check how they are being served, and also whether they are getting the right fertilizers, and also important whether the price is right. And we were able to really appreciate the situation on the ground in terms of the fertilizers were there, and then the price was okay, and then the issue of the quality at that time did not come. Right. But let me tell you this, and I think there was a basis of our discussion, that we have 2 types. Okay, after it was agreed, these are a type of fertilizers required for Kenyan soil, then production of those fertilizers are produced. Let me use only 2 models.
All right.
One model, if the fertilizer, especially imported fertilizers, their manufacturing methodology is different. They are called chemically compounded fertilizers. They are manufactured chemically. Right. So in terms of the technology they use a high level of technology such that when you see their texture, their granular level is a little bit refined because of the technology. So the white fertilizers you are seeing, if you check those fertilizers, they are fertilizers which were imported, which were chemically produced. So they have the same gradient with the other one, but because the technology used was different, they look a little bit like they are better. But in terms of quality, they are the same as the other one. Let me take you to the other one. The one you saw different colors and big.
Actually on the screen.
Yes. So that fertilizer is a high quality fertilizer, but produced locally. Okay. What it means is that when that fertilizer was being produced locally, they use what is called blending. Okay. They blend it. So blending is a mixture of different components of ingredient to produce a particular brand of fertilizer, which meet a particular quality requirement for a soil. So that fertilizer, what the blenders did in that fertilizer, in fact, we went and picked and tested and we found it's okay. It's a good fertilizer. So what they did is that they combined urea, they combined DAP, and then they combined what is called a single superphosphate. So when we see the granulars, which are black in color, those are DAP. When you see the granula, which are red in color, those are the phosphorus. Right. You saw the potassium, I mean. When you see the one which are white, that is urea. Right. So because when the local manufacturers are blending, their technology is a little bit not super. So they just pick in terms of they just weigh. They normally weigh them, and then they use a computer to really blend them. Right. So during that blending is that in terms of sizes, the sizes are different. Okay. So they come in different sizes. They are not well in terms of texture and physique. They look like a little bit rough, but those fertilizers, in terms of quality, in nutrient level, they are good fertilizers.
All right.
They have the right phosphorus, the right nitrogen, and right potassium.
Right.
Very good fertilizers.
Right. Daktari, before we go on a very short break, I just need to get clarity from you. You do confirm that this is good fertilizer that Kenyans should be using?
Yes, let me tell you something else.
Right.
There's something else that you didn't see in that fertilizer. That fertilizer has got some things which look like ash. In fact, they were saying you have mixed some moods. But what happened when the blenders were blending? I went there and, we cannot lie to farmers.
Right.
what happened when they were blending? When you bring in this fertilizer called the superphosphate, the single superphosphate, when they were being blended, because of the mix-up, right, and the packages, right, there are things which came like ashes, small. Right. Those are the single superphosphate deposits which drop. So they look like ashes, and so they look in a different color. Right. But those are good fertilizers.
Right. Bwana PS, of course, granules aside and components of the fertilizer aside, knowing all of that, why then would the NCBP say that investigations are currently underway for the contraband fertilizer and that they are awaiting results from the necessary government agencies? If I am assuming that the entire value chain, has the same communication and they know about this, why then would the main distributor say this?
What NCPP was talking about is not these fertilizers which are under subsidy. Let that be very clear.
All right.
It is the fertilizer which KEBS talk about, right, which is not even a fertilizer. It is called a soil booster, and it is not in this program. It was for the other program. It was started a long time ago, 2021. That is what they meant. But this one, the one which we are using now, they have been tested and they have been verified and confirmed that these fertilizers are best for this particular soil and for this subsidy program.
All right, we go for a very short break. We'll be right back here on Power and Politics.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na Nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee. Soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue. Mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking.
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know what kind of style you're going for.
To finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Welcome back to Power and Politics. We have the Principal Secretary for the State Department of Agriculture, Dr. Kiprono Rono. We were just talking about the state of fertilizer in the country, considering that we are going to be going into the long rains, and this is when a lot of food is produced within the country. PS, you did say that we are aiming for 100 million bags, currently at 44 million. The rains are doing well. We are no longer, having the drought where we had around the year before last. We had a 4-year drought. What exactly are the prospects for this particular year after this season? How many million bags do you project?
All right, from the Kenya Bureau of Statistics, in terms of the population growth, by the year 2027, we'll be required to be producing 72 million bags of maize to feed the population. You know, the population is growing.
Right.
We are guided by that as a ministry to make sure that we push or we enhance our production to meet that target. But luckily enough, we are doing very well. Why? Is because the rain is, you know, it didn't really disturb us because it's raining almost throughout. Let me tell you this, Hibak. The reason why you see an influx and some stampede in different places of fertilizer collection point is one, Kenya is seasoned in terms of planting. You plant as per seasoned. So when you look at before, it was the month of January, in the month of January to the month of February. The planting, the region which used to plant should be Narok, Bomet, Kericho, Nyamira.
All right.
You come to the month of March, up to April, then you are talking about the whole of North Rift and the Western. And then you go the month of May, up to June, then you come to the central region. And then the short rain will start now going forward from July. From July to September, people are preparing land for the short rain, which is now for the asal areas.
All right.
Turkana, Marsabit, up to the coastal region. But this time round, farmers are planting throughout. That has really disturbed our calendar in terms of distribution of fertilizers. So our plan was in the month of January to the month of February, a lot of pumping of fertilizers was supposed to go to the region which we're planting, which is now Bomet, Narok, Nyamira, and Kisii.
Right.
But unfortunately, every region is planting. So it forced us to really spread very thin and make sure that we meet the demand of other regions we are planting.
All right.
So you talk about the issue of our projection. Based on all this planting throughout the year with quality seeds, and then looking at the land available for planting, we are looking at 100 million bags this year coming in terms of maize alone.
Right.
Because we are looking at these quality seeds, we have given farmers the right fertilizers. They are also, what they are also doing, they are buying also double in terms of quantities.
Right.
And therefore it means the production will go high.
Right. Bwana PS, there was a database, you know, that was used first of all in establishing what type of fertilizer goes to which type of farmers, and of course which region gets what amount of fertilizer. Do you say that maybe the database was not accurate for this particular season?
No, we are still using the same database. Okay. When you talk about a big supplying fertilizers to region based on their season,
all right,
we are still using that database. But at the same time, we are saying we cannot ignore a farmer who has gone ahead and is busy planting just because the season has changed. Right. So, for your information, in terms of farmer registration, we got it this time right. We have close to 6.4 million farmers in our database. As opposed to last year, it was 3.2 million. And last year, with 3.2 million, we were able to give out 5.8 million bags of 50 kilogram fertilizers. Okay. This time round, after a lot of analysis we did with the county government, we realized we need close to 12.5 million bags of fertilizers. And as we talk now, we have already given over 2 million bags of fertilizers. We are only remaining with around 5.5 million bags for the long rain.
All right.
Yes.
Let's just get a few sentiments from farmers within the Western region talking about, you know, the shortage of fertilizer.
Hii fertilizer ni kidogo. Hatupati wakati inayofaa. Kama wakati huu kuna wengine hata wengine tumetoka kule cereals na hakuna fertilizer.
Sasa hizi wamefika watu 54. Wewe niambie ndugu yangu. Nitakuwa served siku gani?
Sijapata. Nimekuja hapa saa 12.
Siku hii ni ya 3. Mimi sina mkongo, mimi sina miguu. Na ninataka tena kuenda bure. Sasa wewe rais, mpangilio yako ni ya namba, ni ya laini, ni ya kupewa mbolea.
According to, you know, the farmers within Kakamega County, they had been given numbers which would be used to ensure that they get whatever fertilizers they need for their farms. Now they're asking, these numbers that we were given, it was informed by a certain database. They're wondering, how exactly are we not getting the fertilizer we were promised? What would you say to the farmers?
First of all, and I think I say this, there's an influx of farmers because the program is very attractive and really farmers have come come out in large numbers to support the government. That is a take. The second point is the challenge you are seeing about our farmers, the farmers who are talking about, they've got the station, they've stayed for long, they are not getting fertilizers.
Right.
One,
yes,
yes. And I really sympathize with them. We have also gone to the ground to really witness that. What happened here? Of course, there was a small hitch on the issue of fertilizers because of the international wars, and you must have heard that. There was the ship which was supposed to bring fertilizers on time because of those wars which really hit part of the ocean.
The Israel-Palestine war.
The Red Sea.
Okay.
It forced the ship to go around South Africa, and that one is delayed the arrival of the fertilizers. But as we talk now, we have now fertilizers in large quantities, and you must have heard one of the farmers saying they have seen the train arriving.
Yes.
In fact, let me tell you, when the dollar went down.
But Bwana PS, if the fertilizer is there, the farmers are already queuing, what exactly where do we go wrong? Shouldn't the farmers just get the fertilizer?
All right.
Yes.
Two issues here.
Yes.
On the ground. One, you know our station, the depots for the NCPP,
yes,
they are not as many as we may wish.
Yes.
And as national government, we cannot go and create a last mile, because our intention is to take the fertilizers closer to the farmer, which is to every ward. But where we are now, we are at the county pace, and the county government are struggling now to look for the last mile, and the last mile to look for depot in the last mile, because when you see those farmers, they come from far to one depot, but our arrangement is to make sure that we take the fertilizers closer to the farmers. And that arrangement has been put in place now. The county government are struggling to put computers, to put electricity in other last mile selling points, so that we reduce on the pressure. No amount of fertilizers will sort out a crowd of 1,000 farmers coming to one place. What we have done as government through NCPP to really enhance this in our depots, we have employed 300 casuals to really speed up the process so that we stop on this. Number two, now we have fertilizers. We are now using the train even to transport fertilizers, because it happened that even the lorries, when the dollar was the shilling went up, gain against dollars. Yes. Many transporters went to a different business. Right. So we have a challenge. And 2 weeks ago, we realized that we can now engage our railway system to really assist us lift most of the fertilizers, especially from Mombasa to the countryside. And that is going on. So if you go to most of these counties now, in fact, I think within the next 2 weeks, there'll be no line. Like some lines in some areas where there were line, you reach there's nobody. So we are also now, like Pomet and that side of Keri, we are now pushing it upward to no drift. So yes, it was an influx, but it has been addressed.
Right, it is being addressed, because this was quite recent, and the farmers, especially of Kakamega County, these are the people who are speaking to you right now. They just want to know, how exactly will we get our fertilizer? The rainy season has begun. People are waiting for this fertilizer so that they can begin planting. What would you say to them?
As we talk today, there are over 60 lorries which went to that region. I know the only challenge which could be there a little bit is getting the last mile, so that we reduce on the pressure on one side. And the county government are doing that. But in terms of numbers on fertilizer, that will be a story of the past, because we have distributed close to 100 lorries to both the North Rift region and the Western region. And this will continue over a period of 2 weeks to sort out this issue. Because what happened with also these seasons and the rain doesn't wait. And farmers also, they have specific time to plan. So we are very sensitive on that. And what we have planned is to make sure that within this short period, we have really given them fertilizers, and we have told the county government to open more and more selling points, so that we reduce on pressure at one point.
Right. Let's talk about agrovets for a little bit. Now, these are people who usually feel or who have felt disenfranchised ever since, the affordable fertilizer did come in. Wouldn't you say that maybe you should be using agrovets as well, because these are depots that would work for the farmer? Don't you think that maybe the government could collaborate with the private sector in that sense?
I totally appreciate that. And it is the way to go going forward. But you know, at the very initial stages when you are starting a very aggressive, ambitious program like this one, at this point as government, you need to see how best you can do it before you release it. And as we talk now, we have started now registering the what we call the acro dealers. We are calling them acro dealers.
All right.
There are around 19,000 acro dealers. And we want to make sure that going forward in future, when you identified a supplier, the supplier will identify acro dealers which are registered with government, so that the acro dealers become the last point of sales. And then government will only identify the suppliers to supply fertilizers at the right price. So you know, if we could have released this one without testing, you could have gotten farmers getting fertilizers at a price which the government did not announce, because we are looking at 2,500 per 50 kilogram bags. But you know, if you, at the very initial stages, before you test and release, it is good for government to really take charge at this time. But what you are saying is, as we talk now, we put an advert for acro dealers.
All right.
Yes, around a month ago, and we are now verifying and vetting acro dealers, because we also want to make sure that the people doing business for these farmers, especially the acro dealers, are people with specific good practices, so that we are able to really make sure that as we deploy the national program, it is deployed in a way that the practices, they are good practices all the way to the farmers. Because the farmers have been exploited for long. And I think farmers are happy. At least this government has proven that you can sell fertilizer at 2,500 shillings.
Right, and it's good for us to just highlight some of, the price points, especially for farmers. Right now, DAP, of course, is retailing, the subsidized one is retailing for 3,500 shillings, CAN at 2,875, urea at 3,500 shillings, NPK at 3,275 shillings, MOP at 1,000 shillings, 775, 1,000 shillings, 775, ammonia 2,200, and farmers are entitled to 50 to 100 kilo bags in accordance to, the amount of land that they do have. You did say, Buena PS, that there are local makers who are making this particular, different ranges in accordance to the soil of the farmers. But then you did point out that we are getting a lot of problems when it comes to the importation of fertilizer. What is the balance between local producers and, the imported fertilizer?
Of course, when you look at this program and the government direction, especially plans on promoting the local suppliers, we have really put that one at the center. And when you look at this program, in terms of the engagement, the stakeholders and the suppliers, most of the suppliers who are participating in this program are local suppliers.
Right.
There are very few big international suppliers, because we made sure that we give chance to the local. So you hear the big story of fertilizers, the colors are funny, they are not meeting the standard. Yes, they are meeting the standard. It's because the presentation of a locally manufactured fertilizer, which we have given to our local suppliers to build a local industry, it may not look a little bit, so presentable. It looks like it has some things, but in terms of quality, that fertilizer has met all the required qualities and nutrients content. So anyway, I think what you wanted to know is whether the local suppliers are engaged. Totally engaged. And you have seen from the fertilizers they have produced.
Right.
And I want to request the farmers not to reject the fertilizers just because of their presentation. Those are fertilizers from our local suppliers. And they are doing very well. And we need to promote the local suppliers.
Okay. You're saying don't judge a book by its cover. The looks might not be the most pleasing, but they work, is what the Principal Secretary is saying. Now, of course, there was a company that was flagged by the Kenya Bureau of Standards, SBL Innovate, for allegedly supplying substandard fertilizer under the brand BLGPC. Which company is this? Just for clarity matters, this is, within your State Department. Which company is this? How exactly did they gain access to farmers within the country?
That is a company. It is under investigation. You'll allow me, let KEBS finish the investigation.
Right.
Because I think they are on it to check, but it's a local company. It's a story of a local company. Kenyans like to promote local companies.
All right.
But we cannot say they have those fertilizers at this point have problems until a thorough investigation and analysis is done by KEBS is when we can talk about it.
Right.
I tell you, fertilizer is a science field.
Right.
So we cannot play with science in an environment of, when we talk about farmers, and also you play with science in a science field without a lab report.
Right.
So that is why we are very careful to say, let the report come. Then the government will be in a position to really address that issue conclusively.
Right, but do you, and I think this is what Kenyans really want to know, was there any involvement with the State Department of Agriculture in any of, the supply chain? Because already Kenyans are wondering, has the supply chain for affordable fertilizers been compromised? Should we be worried? We already have, we've stocked up this fertilizer. Would you say that in any way this company was involved with the State Department?
What happened in fertilizer supply and other farm products, before you engage any company or any supplier, you get, first of all, an okay from Kenya Bureau of Standard.
Right.
And that was done. So, but the contractor, the supplier is allowed, based on this license certificate, because what Kenya's Bureau of Standard is to give a license for a supplier to manufacture a particular product. Therefore, that supplier will manufacture the product and give what is called, I told you about certificate of analysis, to show the component of the product. I will manufacture this product, and these are the components of the product. Give me the license, and to some extent, this is the brand of my product. So that when it is manufactured, there is what is called certificate of conformity. You check whether what you said in your certificate of manufacturing, or when you are giving a license, is it the one you are producing? So what happened with the supplier, once that was gone through and Kenya Bureau of Standard said, this meets all the requirements, any government agency can engage a supplier which has passed those tests.
All right.
But if the supplier on the way or during its or our practice make a mistake on the way, is when now the Kenya Bureau of Standard will go and do an analysis to check whether what was mentioned in the certificate and in the certificate of analysis and in the license is being done. And I think that is what they were doing when they discovered that there could be some mismatch.
Right.
Yes.
On the front of connection, are you in any way connected?
No, we are not connected.
All right. All right. Bona PS, now that we are starting to conclude this particular conversation, of course we have touched on the affordability aspect, and you would admit that 3,500 shillings in comparison to the initial price of 6,000 shillings is quite affordable for farmers, and this would significantly boost the food production. But a lot of people would say that at such a low price, it would be expected that such fertilizer, would incur some sort of contamination or changes. Do you believe in the integrity of, whatever fertilizer has been? According to that price range, the quality, would it be, top notch?
All right, the story of, the thinking that quality goes with cost.
Yes.
But
one would say that.
One would say that. Yes. But it doesn't necessarily mean that. Because sometimes cost can mean somebody want to have a big cut or a big profit, and therefore put the cost very high, very exorbitantly.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that the quality is compromised. Now, what happened in this plan of ours? We were very alert. In that arrangement, when we were saying the fertilizer should be 2,500, then we said one of the alert is coming. We need to make sure that we undertake is to make sure that the fertilizers which are being supplied conformed to the quality required by government and by farmers. So this program I've just said that we have continuous checks is to be alert to make sure that they don't go back and compromise on quality, because we are very clear and specific on what we expect to be delivered to the farmers at every other time when we are distributing this fertilizer. So we are alert on that. But we also realize that this fertilizer, yes, you can get at that price.
Right.
Yes.
So initially you're saying that the price had been compromised by quote unquote.
You remember it used to be 7,000.
Yes.
Yes. So yes, it used to be 7,000. Yeah. So you can also guess what was happening in the in the mix.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think if there is something this government has done, which is remarkable, is to really come to the aid of farmers and support farmers who are producing food for this nation by lowering the price, by subsidizing the farm input. And it is not only all over the world. Farm inputs are subsidized. And we are on the right track, let me tell you, on this channel.
Would you say that other farm inputs, because we don't just need fertilizer, there are very many other inputs, and of course the State Department is responsible for a lot of these inputs. Would you say that they are at a fair price for farmers to produce the most with?
We are doing an analysis to see to what extent can we really subsidize other farm input.
Yes.
Of course, we have not come up with sort of a final report on that, but we feel that we need to look at the full spectrum of the farm input based on the best practice. We look at how best the government can really support farmers. So in the event we realize that there are other farm input which we may need to really subsidize, I think the government at that point will come up with a position. But based on a serious thorough analysis, as we talk now, we are very busy also looking at best practices across the world. What normally happen and what is to be subsidized and how are they subsidized? And why are other countries, other states doing better in farming to an extent that they are able to export their products to Kenya or to other countries. So those are the deep analysis we are trying to engage so that we also make sure that whatever we bring to the table for Kenyans is the best.
All right. Now, we have like a minute or so to go. Looking at Kenyans right now, knowing that there are, you said 6.4 million farmers who are looking at you right now, a lot of them looking forward to the long rains. What would you tell them when it comes to fertilizers, when it comes to the quality of fertilizers that they are getting, when it comes to access to the fertilizers? Could you give a tentative timeline within which farmers will be getting the fertilizer that they need in order to produce the food that we need?
All right, the first part I want to say is that the fertilizers we have identified under the subsidy program are quality fertilizers. They meet all the standards. And the government, through the Ministry of Agriculture, is continuously monitoring the distribution of these fertilizers and ensuring that the quality is maintained. Number two, in terms of access to these fertilizers, because I think that is a big issue here, I know there was a hitch which some of the government has addressed in terms of making sure that we take the fertilizers the right place at the right time. I want to assure farmers that on areas where the farmers are now farming, they are on season, we intend to clear the backload within the next 2 weeks so that those farmers go to farming. Their business is not to queue. We have agreed. It's not to go and queue and talk about several days and months in the queue. Their business is to go and produce. That one we are aware. And that is why we want to address these issues within the next 2 weeks. We have sorted out the issue of our distribution. Additionally, the county government with us, there's something which is mentioned in silent, that some farmers are saying we need to be registered. We have engaged the county government now to register farmers who have not been registered. And they are now going down to the farms, because this is the work of the county government to go to the farm, down to the farms, then verify the information the farmers has given. And we have given the county government 2 weeks. We have even added some other staff called agropreneurs to go back and support the county government to register farmers. We have also put sort of a desk outside every depot, whereby farmers can also come and be assisted in terms of verification of data. And we have allowed the people who are on the ground to check, to be able to edit the system, because they are the one who have the raw data, and they are able to serve the farmers there and then. Maybe the last one, which is important to the farmers, is I want to tell the farmers to go back to the farm. Yes. And
average age 61, that's crazy.
Yes. Because we are on a very serious business here. In fact, in terms of the way we are planned as a ministry, we want to really engage the farmers to go back to the farm. And we are bringing in now, we want to see how best we can engage with the extension officers, with the county government and the national government, so that they can produce the best and also do what is called best the best practice in terms of farming.
Yes.
For
and to adopt agrotech,
yes,
which is very important.
Technology.
Right. Thank you so much, Bwana PS. Our time has fortunately or unfortunately come to a close. I'm glad we got to converse on the various issues that different farmers are going through tonight here on Power and Politics, the Daily Report. We always bring you what exactly is happening, things that are affecting you, and what exactly the government and your leaders have to say about it. Thank you so much for being a part of this particular bulletin. My name is Hibak Said. Have yourselves a very lovely Monday and a very good night.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nilikuwa na nisani kama 10